Some of the fences hold, others do not. This truly is a social document for our time.
We're all fans of something. You can be a fan of Joni Mitchell, you can be a fan of Game of Thrones. I'm a fan of Broadway musicals. So much about fandom just boils down to human nature. We want a sense of identity, of community. You know, these are forces behind, you know, everything from political parties to religion. So when does fandom become more of a way of life, more of a complete identity? What it means to be a sort of professional fan. In the summer of 2018, there was a music journalist in Toronto named Juana Thompson. One day, she tweeted a pretty mild criticism of Nicki Minaj, just saying, you know, I wish she would write more mature music. She's pushing 40. I think a new direction is needed. And then she put her phone away for a few hours, and by the time she checked it again, this tweet had gone absolutely viral. It had attracted the attention of the Nicki Minaj fan community. They all flooded her with direct messages. There were fans who found out her phone number and started making hateful images of her 4-year-old daughter and spreading them online. It was a really mild thought about the direction that her music was headed, but it completely upended this woman's life. Fandoms online can become so turbocharged and so hyper-aggressive that it is very reminiscent of how, you know, politics works online right now, but in the name of a singer or in the name of, you know, a TV show. That seems new to me. Something a little more dangerous and a little more absurd as well.
I got a room full of your posters and your pictures, man.
There's this term now, Stan, which comes from the 2000 Eminem song Stan, which is short for stalker fan.
It's your biggest fan, it's a Stan.
In it, Eminem fantasizes about a sort of deranged fan who keeps writing him letters and then gets angry that he doesn't respond.
I hope you can't sleep and you scream about it. I hope your conscience eats at you when you can't breathe without me.
So that word Stan went through the hip-hop community and surfaced in more recent years on social media, especially, to mean someone who is a really ardent fan, almost a crusader for a pop star or a movie franchise or even a politician. The rise of Donald Trump, who is himself a kind of pop culture figure, even more than a politician, has a lot of overlap with toxic fandom. Donald Trump supporters almost act like stans of a pop star who they feel like they need to defend against haters. Audiences now expect to have a voice, and that can create tension or even outright conflict. In these fan uprisings, like the harassment campaign against Leslie Jones, who was in the all-female reboot of Ghostbusters, or what happened with Game of Thrones, where 1.7 million people signed a petition to remake the entire season with, you know, quote, competent writers. We were now waging these culture wars through major pop culture events or personalities. And that to me seems like a change from, 10, 15 years ago. But because fantasy and comic book franchises have completely taken over the entertainment industry and pop stars have gotten so big in the music industry, fandom has just ballooned. It now kind of encompasses all of mainstream culture. I didn't want to just report on online fan activity. I really wanted to talk to people in person about how fandom had played a role in their lives and shaped who they were. And so I knew I had to go to Comic-Con. Sci-fi conventions have been around since the 1930s, when people who read sci-fi books started connecting.
What part of outer space do you come from?
I'm an extraterrestrial that evolved from the chicken race.
They became more popular in the 60s with Star Trek, which attracted a really big, intense fan community who actually kept the show on the air with a letter writing campaign.
To seek out new life and new civilizations.
Pop culture conventions have now become a $90 million industry. Comic-Con in San Diego is the king of all of these cons. It's a 4-day affair that brings in 135,000 people. The sea of humanity right here. The Dragon Queens are out. What is this? It's like its own city. So you have Star Trek and Harry Potter and Marvel all coming in with stars of shows and movies where they often, premiere trailers and try to make some news. Fans pretty much love this. It's a real mutual embrace between these entertainment companies and their fans. I will say Comic-Con seems to represent the kind of brighter, friendlier side of fandom. People just feel emboldened to be meaner and more negative online and sort of be their worst selves. Unlike social media fandom, which can get very quickly intense and combative, people at Comic-Con who I talked to in person were really mellow and really positive about what fandom had brought to their lives.
Comic books or pop culture, TV shows, movies, you can belong without having to try.
It honestly opened my life up to so much more. You find a group of people that are like-minded, and you're like, wow, okay. I'm not so alone anymore.
Making their own communities and believing and honestly cosplaying, you're creating your own universe of it for sure.
Yeah.
The importance of fandom is to give that community, is to give people that sense of community.
Yeah.
To participate in something bigger than themselves.
I talked to this one guy who was dressed as SpongeBob SquarePants, and he's studying to be a therapist. And he talked to me about how everyone needs 3 things. They need to be heard, they need to be seen, and they need to be valued. In a vast society where you don't always have people, fandom can bring you a community and give people a sense of place and a sense of belonging. That's a great thing. A lot of people just need some sort of organizing principle in their lives, whether it's religion, a workplace, or family, and that is what pop culture fandom does for some people. It gives you a sense of being in a tribe almost. But if something threatens your sense of loving this particular thing, you can become part of a sort of massive fan group that might go on the attack.
Thursday, it's an all-new, absolutely...
So at some point in 10th grade, I was so obsessed with the must-see TV Thursday lineup. I had t-shirts for Friends, Seinfeld, and I.R.L, and every Friday I would go to school wearing whatever shirt corresponded to the show I thought had the best episode the night before. This was the 90s, so I didn't have an online community to be a part of. If I had that kind of outlet, I would have sought it out. So in writing the piece, I really looked back at my own fandom and how pop culture had, shaped my sense of identity as a young person. And that really made me feel like fandom is a type of love. It's a type of love that can almost never really be fulfilled. Kind of like, a Greek myth where a mortal might fall in love with a demigod. Except fandom is the love between a human and a story or a celebrity or a work of art. It is driven by passion. And passion, can take destructive forms, and it can take wonderful positive forms that get people through life.
Make friends! Let's go!